Hello,
Hi,
Lady Joan, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. You?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, great. All right, well, did Barry check you in?
No, because he says you have to do them.
Oh, okay. All right, let's see who is on. Oh, Annie is here. I don't know yet. Okay, so let's do it then. Let's do it. So, if you want to go ahead and put on your camera, your sound is good, but let me hear it simultaneously with your camera.
Now I don't know what happened. I'm out of Zoom. There we go. We're back in. Okay. I don't know why the camera isn't on my screen. Does it? Do I have to turn camera on Zoom, Michael?
Yes.
And where is that? Oh, I see. Start video. That should do it.
Yep.
It was starting video. That's what it needed. Now what I need is to
Well,
share.
no, well, yeah, but be sure you turn it on, because you turned it off again. There we go. No, it turned off. Yeah, now we got it. Perfect. There we go. Okay, now go ahead and share the screen. Hello?
Host has disabled screen sharing.
Oh, I'm Peachy. How are you?
Fantastic. Good to see you.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a migraine going on, but other than that, I'm awesome.
Oh, wonderful. Good, good, good. Good to see you. Thank you so much for coming.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay, Joan, you should be good to share now.
Click share screen, right, Michael?
Yes.
Okay. Share. It says open in system preferences. What am I supposed to do now? Zoom on, probably. I don't have a password for that. So what do I do?
We don't require this.
Well, exactly. I don't think it does either, but it says privacy and security is trying to modify your system settings. Touch ID. Okay, I've done my touch ID. Quit and reopen. I've got to leave the meeting.
or maybe sharing a testimony.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, Dr. Bacchus. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Michael, do you know if Michael Hartong is going to be
He should be
joining us?
Thank you. Let me see if I can just send him a quick text. Okay, Al is still joining. Let's see. He's on Facebook. He's on Facebook. No, he needs to be on Zoom. So we may have to go.
You don't have to creep right now. It's not really started yet. Hey, good. You recognize me? You went swimming next. That's Jamaican mice. Now see? Come here. Aw, I don't get to show off my boys.
Okay, so like to welcome all. We have one of our participants that seems to be trying to get in. So we'll see hopefully if they can make it, but like to welcome all of you. My name is Michael Dale Campbell. I go by Dale in the natural health, lifestyle health world. If you call me Michael, I'll still answer. And just like to welcome all of you. This is a real treat for all of us in the Natural Health Planners group. And at this time, we have a welcome video. For those of you who are here for the first time, it will give you some really good idea as to who we are as a group, what our goals are. And so we'll have that come on right now. After that, we'll have a word, and then we'll have our appetizer minute that comes right after that, just to set the stage for the topic. And we'll proceed after that with our disclaimers, our prayer, and then of course we'll go into the rest of the program with a testimonial, as well as our guest presenter who will be introduced just a little bit later. So Barry, could you please?
Do you ever feel the need for more energy, vitality, and a greater sense of well-being? Then stay tuned. We are natural health enthusiasts with yet another delicious recipe of best practices in holistic lifestyle health. Our natural health planners, sponsors, presenters, and friends compile and share the simplest, most natural discoveries and practices targeted to restoring and maintaining energy, as well as a sense of well-being that we all want in our daily lives. It has been said that health is a state of complete harmony of the body, mind, and spirit. Therefore, through the practice of the 8 laws of natural health, integrated with evidence-based research, we see a world empowered by Christ's love that is passionately seeking to be its healthiest in body, mind, and soul. And that's why we're so glad you've chosen to be here. Join us each month to help us celebrate the Creator for the resources and knowledge that consistently optimize His gift of natural healing in our bodies. We thank our hosts at the All Nations Fellowship Seventh-day Adventist Church in partnership with Community Outreach Incorporated for providing this one-of-a-kind opportunity that helps us all live healthier tomorrow than we are today, every single day. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's your Natural Health Meetup presenting team for this life-enhancing edition.
Wow. They're all just life-enhancing additions. And so we're really thankful that you're here with us. I'm going to put in the chat window. So I'm hoping everyone, all of you, can actually activate your chat window. I'm going to put a series of links in the chat window. And the reason is we want you to be sure to know how to reach out to us when we're not doing the workshop. And one of these links in particular, the very last link, I would like you to know that that's a survey link. We'd like to hear from you at the end of this. It's a survey. Just answer a few questions so we can keep doing even a better job each time. And if you have a particular need or desire, you want to take off and go to a retreat someplace, then you can tell us right there. Or if you'd like information on something specific, you can tell us right there as well. And so we just really would like you to stay connected with us, even in between our workshops as needed. And as you wish, we are here to serve you in any way that we can. And it is now time, folks, for our appetizer minute. Those of you who've been here before know that we connect the dots. We help you help us connect the dots. That's the correct way to say it. And we'd like to bring those slides up. We have, so I'd like you now to be in the chat window. So you were there to look at the links. Now you're going to stay right there in the chat window. I'd like you to I want to see a whole bunch of words coming in, just explaining, what do you like to eat when you are happy? Let me see. Come on. I know. I'm going to put mine in here. I celebrate with that. Okay, salad, ice cream. Come on. Let's see. Yeah, we hope you don't scream too loud when you do that. Okay, veggie pizza. Okay, fantastic. All right. Ooh, Haagen-Dazs. Ooh. Ah, yes, the mango, of course. Phenomenal. Oh, buttered popcorn. That's precious. That is so precious, Deb. Okay, of course. There's so many things that we just gravitate to, right? Some of them are comfort foods and some of them are, don't try to make me guilty, right? Yeah, fruit smoothie, of course, absolutely. Yeah. And so we really have a wide variety of things and we all go so many different directions. Oh yeah, I love it. Lily, you sent that one only to me, just so you know, right? But I got it. It's chicken enchiladas, okay. So folks, we're going to go on. Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to move right on to question number 2. The second and last question for today in the appetizer minute, it's describe your state of mind. This is going just a tad deeper, but we want you to go in there just and find another word other than happy that describes your state of mind when you are indeed happy, and no more than 3 words. Go for it. See. At peace, peaceful, joy. Yes, they're coming in. Contented, calm. Yeah, content with myself. I love it. Joy. Confident and calm. Thank you, Taylor. Great. Shashi, thank you for that joy. Amazing, right? And we all have different ways of interpreting this feeling that we have when we are happy. And that's our theme tonight. Our guest presenter is going to be really giving us some great tips tonight in looking at some of the issues that we struggle with when attempting to get into the happy state. Light and open, relaxed and rested. Thank you so much. Calm and relaxed, Jadine. Thank you. And so here we have an opportunity, folks, to set the stage. I would like for you to know that we have coming up in the month of October. What month did I say? It's the month of October. We have a vegan cooking class that's going to be not online, it's going to be on site. It's going to be in the Downers Grove, Illinois area. And it's going to be not only vegan cooking, but also lifestyle health. And so we'll be announcing that over the next few weeks. Those of you who would like to learn more about that, be sure to fill out the survey that we mentioned earlier. And I want to share my screen for just a quick moment here so that you can see a few items that we do want to mention. And so this is who we are, natural health enthusiasts, and we are a Meetup and outreach ministry of the All Nations Fellowship Seventh-day Adventist Church and community outreach. We do monthly presentations here the second Tuesday of each month. I mentioned earlier, this is year number 8 for us, starting in the month of August. And so we're just about our anniversary month. And these are some of our team members here who actually plan these workshops. We meet every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. And we are so dedicated, we never missed a Sunday. And we get together to actually design these programs for you. We need to hear from you so we can help, you can help us do even better. And while we're here, to mention our vision, it's just really about empowering all of you to be the healthiest in body, mind, and soul. We use evidence-based research, we use the 8 laws of health, and we integrate those, and it is our desire that you will also be empowered by Christ's love as we seek to be healthy. And of course, our disclaimer simply is this, folks: we cannot, in this forum, provide anything that's considered to be medical advice. All right, please consult with a qualified professional. And even any of our guests, or even any one of you who may actually say something. Now, this is what I've done, and I've gotten rid of mine, whatever. All right? So wow, that's pretty cool. Somebody flying. But yes, if you could turn your microphones off, that'd be great. But just a reminder that, again, this is just for information. It is just for education. And if you do want to reach out to any one of us as coaches, the link that I provided earlier, and I will be providing it again, the link in the chat will get you to one of us as a coach so that we can actually work with you on a one-on-one basis. I'm going to put that out there again for those of you who came in just a little bit later. This is, again, in the chat window. These are the links that will help you to stay connected to us in between our workshops each month. So I don't know if Michael Hartung, did he come in to the Zoom? If not, I don't hear him. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead then and start us off with a word of prayer. And that will give us then from there, we'll move on to Dr. Danny Frederick, who is going to be introducing one of our guests, who is a guest testimonial today, and our guest presenter. We'll have a Q&A after that, and we'll continue on through the agenda just so that we'll have an opportunity to share with you all of the content that we have for you this evening. So let's bow our heads for prayer, please. Dear God, we're just so thankful that we have this amazing opportunity to look at your creation, to look at the things that you have given to us through nature, and to understand them, to dig deep into the research, and to even test different things for ourselves and see how they work. We want to thank you, God, for this opportunity to share with our friends that have joined us this evening. And we want that this particular session be a blessing, that it will provide for us exactly the information that we can use to help us to be happier, to be healthier, and to be that awesome person that you want us to be. Thank you for hearing and for answering this prayer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Michael, very much for that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Danny Frederick, originally from the Caribbean, the Virgin Islands. Early this afternoon, I had the pleasure of speaking with our first testimonial individual, Annie, and she is quite excited about sharing what has gone on in her life as it relates to food, to eating, and to happiness. She's going to talk about her transformation. And before, as you start, Annie, can you explain to us what is Crohn's disease?
It's a digestive disease that I have. It is incurable, so I will live with it for the rest of my life, but controlling it is the main key. Basically, all the good bacteria in my system that's supposed to be breaking down my food, my immune system is fighting it like it's bad bacteria. So it's not able to do its job properly. So anything that's hard for my body to digest, such as roughage, like raw salads, you know, lettuce especially, stuff like that, nuts, it's basically shredding me from the inside because it's not being digested properly. So it can cause a lot of inflammation. Eventually, if I didn't take care of it, I could have pieces of my colon and my pieces of my intestines removed. So it can be very detrimental to my life.
Wow. You seem like a young person. How did that affect you growing up, if I may ask?
I didn't have it all my life. It didn't come about until after I had my second child in 2009. It can be genetic, but no one else in my family has it. But my boys will have to be tested when they're 18.
Wow. So you discovered something was wrong. You got yourself tested, and what happened after you realized you had it?
My doctor put me on a medication, and it was called Pentasa, and they were a gel capsule about the length of a quarter, and I had to take about 8 of those a day. And I would still have flare-ups. So my husband started watching, he was watching documentaries, and he just happened to notice something in a specific documentary that he watched on Netflix. And he's like, you know what, let's give this a try. And so we cut meat out of our system. And then about a week later, we decided, let's just go straight vegan. And so we did. And I haven't had a flare-up in 4 years. And that was when I started going vegan. It was about 4 years ago.
How has that helped you has it helped you to become, I guess, more happy or a bit more pain-free? What have the results been?
I am definitely not doubled over in pain in the middle of my meals. I'm not crying. I'm not like having to, I need to take a minute because I have to breathe through. It feels like, I know you men don't understand, but like a contraction, that's kind of what it feels like. And it's extremely painful and to breathe through it and like let it pass. But I don't have to worry about that anymore, at least not as of yet. So it's wonderful. So I can go on my daily, on with my daily life and not have to worry about, oh my God, am I going to have a flare up in the middle of driving or, cooking dinner or whatever I'm doing for the day.
Okay. Your husband does not have Crohn's, does he?
No, he doesn't.
And so how has that impacted his life? Has it been a blessing, a benefit for someone that does not have?
he's been my rock. He's been my support, because when he when he brought the vegan diet to me and I was like, this is going to be really hard. He did it with me. So we've been doing this together for 4 years. He doesn't have any medical issues, but there are some benefits for people that don't have any issues, like medical issues. He has more energy. He doesn't have that heavy, bloated, sluggish feeling after he eats, that food coma feeling. It clears your skin. There's some other, he'll tell you it's a little bit libido booster too, but we won't go into that. But it definitely has a lot more benefits when it comes to energy and less sluggish. It keeps the weight off. I've lost over 20 pounds just,
Wow.
With the diet change too. Because before I was eating stuff that's not too good for people, because all the good stuff was bad for me. So I blew up for a little while, but I've lost a lot of weight because of it too. So it's wonderful.
Wow. I'm sure this had to have been a learning curve in regards to preparation of meals. I don't want to end without asking you this question. What have been some of the challenges though? Maybe visiting with family or going out with friends. How has that impacted your life?
I have a couple other friends that are vegan also, and a lot of my close friends are very understanding of our diets. And they do a lot to accommodate, or they don't get offended if we bring our own food sometimes. And that's what I do when I go with my family, because my family's, they're big on meat eaters, and they don't quite get, our diets, and they don't really quite understand, like what I was going through. So when I go to holidays and stuff like that, I will bring in a dish for myself and my husband to eat. And I do have 2 boys who still eat meat, but they will make the decision later on in life, for themselves if they decide to do this too. But they do eat vegan with me sometimes. If I offer it, they'll eat it.
Great. Well, Annie, thank you so much for sharing. We definitely are going to continue to pray for you with your diagnosis. And you seem to be happy, right?
Very.
You're smiling from ear to ear, and that's what we're looking for. How a lifestyle, a change in diet can impact our lives.
It definitely does. It really does. But it's not for everybody. So you got to do what your body tells you to do. So.
That's great advice. We transition now to our main speaker for our time being. And I want to start off this way. So many people feel like Eeyore. I don't know if you've ever heard of Winnie and the Pooh. Eeyore, he always walks with a cloud above his head. Or maybe they're waiting for the ground to just open up under their feet. They are so much in fear or worry or anxiety. And it's pretty quite high today. As a chaplain, personally, I work at the hospital, and much of my time is spent listening to patients and or their family members as they're trying to figure out what hope is there? How will they go on? When I'm not working as a chaplain, I'm a teacher. And so much of the time spent not teaching, I'm talking with staff members, or I'm talking with students, and they too are filled with anxiety. But I'm not a therapist, guys. I have no experience or training rather, in the subject that we're going to be dealing with. But I know someone who is, and her name is Joan Nihal. She's a psychologist, an author, a wife, a mother, a philanthropist, and she has conducted seminars in China, Shanghai and Beijing, to name a few of the places. And she's written a book, Happy is the New Healthy, as well as Perfecting Your Private Practice. And this interesting one, Women Who Roar, Female Pioneers in Alberta. That might give you a hint as to where she's coming from. She and a friend also wrote a book, Habit of a Happy Life, 30 Days to a Positive Addiction. Well, this evening, we are so blessed, Joan, to have you with us. Most recently, she's spoken at the Mindful Life Summit in San Francisco and has participated in numerous panels and discussions, right, about happiness, powerful women, telemedicine, and how to deal with the psychological effect of lockdown after COVID-19. So very important, so necessary, Joan, and we are so grateful that you are here. She's also a forensic clinical psychologist. That's an important thing. And I want to start off with this question, Joan. Can you share with us, please, what is a Scandinavian mystery?
Oh, yes. Joe Nesbo, Lars Kepler, it's whodunits, and they're brilliant. They're just absolutely divine because it's like a treasure hunt, and there's always a psychological twist to it that makes it. The girl with the dragon tattoo would be another example. I don't know if your group would like this, but I certainly enjoyed it because of psychopathy and what it said about the guy who was actually a psychopath. And
right.
So yeah, those are the kinds of things that I will sink my canines into in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, please? How did you get into this line of work that you thoroughly enjoy? I've been listening to some of your podcasts, or did you stumble upon it?
Well, that's a good question. How did I say? Oh, I know. So I come from a medical home, and I told my dad and my mother, when I was 7 years old, I was going to be a flight attendant. And I remember they both looked at each other and looked at me, and my mom said, well, Joan, if that's what you want to do, if it'll make you happy, go for it. My dad didn't say a word. And later on in life, I decided I was going to follow their practice and I was going to become a medical doctor. But I thought what I'd like to do is psychiatry. So my father took me into the hospital. He showed me what psychosis was all about. And he asked me at a young age, are you sure this is what you want? I said no. And the reason I said no is because it made me feel very sad, very hopeless, because in those days we had ECT, and it was a case of let's wipe out your memory, let's start again, tabula rasa. And it was so hopeless. If you were schizophrenic, if you were paranoid schizophrenic, the chances of suicide were very high. If you had bipolar affective disorder, the chances of suicide were equally high. So I thought about it, and my father is a really gifted man because he said to me, I really think you need to think about it carefully and make sure that this is what's going to give you joy. And I said, no, it won't. And then I stumbled upon Rollo May and Viktor Frankl and those guys, the humanistic guys. And I thought, hey, this looks interesting. And I started reading Thomas Schwartz, the myth of psychotherapy and what a joke psychology is. And I thought, this might be something that might appeal to me, And that's how I got into it, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I read all of those books and I thought, this is really intriguing. So let me try it, especially since I was told, in particular by my parents, that it was a field that was going to be very challenging. The area I wanted to go into was male dominated. And if I wanted to go off on my own, I'd probably fall on my face. So with those words of hope, I pursued which was psychology. So that was an interesting phenomenon because I ended up at the University of Toronto and I realized I was clinically poor. I had no money really, and I never waitressed in my life. I wasn't going to do those things. I was in the residence. I thought, what am I going to do? So I decided I could get some awards. So I got the Ontario Graduate Scholarship, the U of T Open Dog, and the Canada Council Award, all on the dance floor in Sparkles in the CN Tower, where a group of us from residence would go every Tuesday because it was free for women, and we would all go that dance, and we were university students. We come back to the residence. So that, in a nutshell, is a little bit of how I got into what I did and how I stumbled upon loneliness, especially when I was at the University of Toronto, how I learned to overcome loneliness. I became president of the Students Association, how I could connect with others, and that's when I started to learn how to run. So exercise became a crucial part of what I was doing And yeah, I suppose that's how it started.
Thank you for sharing that. Folks, I can tell you, after doing some background information, Joan is quite funny. So as she continues to share stories, she will make us entertain, she'll make us laugh. But her topic is serious. We are living in a time where happiness seems fleeting. And sometimes the pursuit of happiness is not necessarily the pursuit of true happiness, but just a pursuit of pleasure. And so this evening, Joan, for the rest of the time, we'd like you to share with us some of your background, your expertise, your studies on the subject of happiness.
Thank you. Now, Dale, I know you were not supposed to call you Michael. Would you like to start that PowerPoint, or do you want me to restart it?
No, please, you go right ahead.
You took it away.
Yeah, just go ahead and share your screen. So now it's your turn.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, here we go. Oh dear.
Switch over to your PowerPoint now.
Yeah, but that's the problem. It won't let me go to, oh, here we go. Perfect.
You're good.
Okay, so if at any point this talk that I've prepared is boring, feel free to leave. I won't take it personally. Also, if you are clinically happy, that is, you have a balance between your achievements and your aspirations, you're guilty of being happy, so you can leave as well. For the rest of us who stumble around happiness, let me talk about it. And I'm going to give you a lot of information tonight because I really want to do a good job for you. So when you leave me, you've got a good framework, if you will, a scaffold to hold on to. Because it is true that the word happy has been used inappropriately at times, I will say. But I'm going to stay within my field as a board-certified psychologist. What is happiness is what I want to talk about, why we can't be happy today, or what are some of the obstacles to happiness, what are some of the building blocks and stumbling blocks to happiness, and an invitation to access your happiness on demand by using my happiness control panel. Have you ever used a hammer? Tools are really effective to help us make progress. My happiness control panel nails the how of happiness. Happiness is something that has been the holy grail of our century. Everyone seems to be looking for it and not finding it. Have you found that to be your experience? It's been mine at times. In the 4th century BC, Aristotle in Greece and Zhuangzi in China said the purpose of life is to be happy. Did you know that? Aristotle called it eudaimonia, or meaning and purpose in life, while Zhuangzi said, and I quote, "Happiness lies in the absence of striving for happiness." Love that quote. Or why don't we look at what the Dalai Lama said? Want what you have, not need what you want. So there you go. Everyone is looking for happiness, as we were told by our chaplain just now. And it's true. And this is what I say. That's what happiness is all about. We also call it in psychology subjective well-being. But what is that? So there you've got a really clear example of what it is. And what's the advantage of happiness? But before we go to that, let's just stop the screen share. Let's stop that and say, why can't we be happy today? I think I need to answer that question before I go on to what's so good about happiness. In an era of uncertainty, there's not one day that goes by in which we don't hear about another natural disaster. In the form of an earthquake, a flood, tornado, we hear about a looming economic recession, risk of further infection, El Nino, a lack of faith in our political systems, misinformation, disinformation, polarization, and social inequality. These factors, among others, mitigate against our pursuit of happiness. But just as Viktor Frankl talked about tragic optimism in the face of imminent death in the Holocaust, and as a Holocaust survivor himself, we can all embrace tragic optimism. Frankl maintained that without hope, there is no meaning. Without meaning, there is no hope. Optimism is like a muscle. You've got to train it. Our ancestors were primed to look for negatives in the environment as a way of protecting the tribe from possible threats. Today, we call this negativity bias, and we still have it, by the way. We tend to focus on the negatives without looking at the broad picture and finding positive nuggets along the way. Now, what are some of the advantages to being happy? There are definitely some of these advantages are there to being happy. Lubomirsky talks about it in 2005. Our immune system is definitely strengthened, by the way. We have improved physical and mental health, better relationships at work and in our personal life. The risk of cardiovascular disease is significantly reduced, and our lifespan increases. Did you know that? That depends on whether you want to live a long life, but that's a different story. Speak to the pathologist. I'll get to that soon. When I talk about happiness, I'm not referring to toxic positivity or that need to be happy at all times, no matter what. I'm sure you've seen these people that they're always happy. And we don't know why, but they seem to be always happy. And I call that toxic positivity. And in fact, the research shows that there's a danger to being happy at all times. For example, they did a study in which men tended to be impulsive with their financial decisions when they were overtly, excessively happy. And these types of people can be criticized as being superficial in their relationships with other people, since they tend to minimize concerns raised by others. You know, there was a study in which women had difficulty losing the last 10 pounds due to toxic positivity. So when I talk about happiness, I'm talking about 3 types of happy lives that we can all have. The pleasant life, in which we focus on pleasure. A good life, in which we focus on the roles that we have to perform, both in our careers and personal lives as parents, for instance. And a meaningful life, in which we add a spiritual component or a dimension of altruism into the mix. For instance, we could be involved in ways to reduce our carbon footprint, in volunteering in a political organization, in a social organization, or you guys in spirituality. These are just some examples. Marty Seligman found in his research that the happiest group were the ones who had a meaningful life. They trumped the ones with a pleasant life, okay? Obviously, it fits into meaning and purpose, huh? The research indicates that happy people will have moments of unhappiness. And I want to underscore that. It's like you with Crohn's disease. You know, there are going to be moments when we're going to be challenged. You know, this comes out of nowhere. Why would you have Crohn's disease in 1999? You know, this is crazy, right? I have a friend who has Crohn's, by the way, so I know how painful it is. Believe me, I do. And she's a medical doctor, by the way. She's had quite of her gut removed already, but she is a Christian. Look, so the point I'm making is that happy people will have moments of unhappiness, but the moments will be shorter. And I'll tell you why. They know how to reach out with resilience to others for help. They have a good support network. They cry when other people are sad. They rejoice in other people's successes. They're not competitive. They tend to be more interested in intrinsic rewards than the extrinsic rewards of, say, a paycheck. What's more important to them is to contribute in a meaningful way. Okay? So good old Tony Robbins, you might have heard of, has come up with these needs that people have. I thought it was a neat thing to share with you guys tonight, you know? Here are your personality needs, a need for love, certainty. You know, some people absolutely must have certainty. You know, with COVID-19, it was so hard on them because there were no guarantees. It felt like the rug was pulled out from under their feet. Some other people need variety. They just can't stay with one thing. They got to have 5 or 6 other things on the go. And others need significance. They have to feel that what they're doing is of significance. On a spiritual level, you need to contribute and you need to have growth. So here's a good graph I thought you guys should have, because people often ask me as a happiness expert, tell us at what age are we going to be happy? And it is so fun to look at this graph, because this is a poll, by the way. Your best possible life occurs from 0 to age 20. And I think looking at you guys and myself, we've missed the boat, right? But, well, maybe you guys are still swimming upstream. I missed the boat because, you know, there's menopause. And some of my patients tell me that's a good time to pause from men. But please don't look at them, because men have... I have to stop laughing. I find my work so exciting. But, you know, apart from us men, you know, I'm talking to you right now, and, you know, we have to take our pause. The men have a pause too. And I'll tell you what some of these men do in the midlife crisis. It's really funny. They buy the Jaguar, they buy the Rolls Royce, they have to do these things. Some of them even are known to pick up another partner. But never mind. These are some of the things that we can do. And the chaplain can tell you, bless me, Father, for I have not sinned. But, you know, in your levity aside, there's a reason why we hit that dip there. I'll tell you why. Because at that point, between 45 to 55, we feel that, you know, the pedal has hit the metal. We have created our personal and financial portfolios. We have created our goals, and now we start measuring our life as distance towards death. Whereas if we look at our young men in our 20s, they're looking at life as distance from birth, and our children. Oh, when's your birthday? Oh, well, I remember. Know that phenomenon? It's an important one to know. The other thing to look at is people have said to me, Joan, why in your 30s do you get a dip? And I'll tell you why, because I think of my son, and it's such a lovely story I have to tell you guys. This guy went to university and he did this, that, and the other. And then, guess what? The life of Riley came to a bitter, screeching end. He had to go out and be sustainable. He'd finished university and all of that. Pedal hit the metal, and then he felt some anxiety because, hey, now I've got to get with it, get with the program, huh? And I told him, darling, wait till you hit your 40s. There'll be another dip, but not to worry, because you move on. Do you see the point, though? But that's an important point to know with kids in their 30s onwards, because all of a sudden they've got to prove themselves, huh? In whatever form, be you a welder or whatever. And then in your 80s onwards, notice the graph goes up. And that's true, that's ubiquitous, meaning it's cross-cultural. Any culture, you'll see the same thing, it goes up. Why? Because I don't have an axe to grind anymore. My ducks are in order. I'm at peace, and I'm in a contemplative state in my life. I've got wisdom. And if I'm teaching in China, for example, the Asian culture is so different than the North American one because they respect their elders. The elders are considered wise people. And what bothers me here sometimes, one of the things that people do at times is discriminate. There's ageism, and we discriminate against the elders. Or some people have been known to say to me, well, why doesn't she just die so I can inherit the millions, you know? And that, I'm not making light of it because it does happen. But you will find in general, I'm saying in general, right across the board, people are much happier because they're at peace then. You know, when Michael asked you the question, I call him Michael, by the way, forgive me. But he asked the question, what gives you happiness? And you all came up with that peacefulness. That is something to look forward to, okay? So there's your U-shaped form of happiness. Okay, so here's the question. Take a look at this slide. Who do you think would be happier in a year's time? Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they just won $1 million, or this poor person who is now a paraplegic? Who do you think?
For me, it's hard to say. A number of things can happen within that year.
That's true. That's a good point. A number of things could happen. So, you know, the others could be run down, become paraplegics too. Anyone else has an idea as to what happens in a year's time to these guys? Because it's true that right now, Mr. and Mrs. Smith are obviously going to be happier than the other guy because, I mean, unless you're a masochist, you don't really want to be on a wheelchair, right? But look at what happens. In 1 year, we return to our original level of happiness. We have a set point of happiness and we return to it. And that's an important thing to teach you tonight. Why? Because it's important to know that we have a set point of happiness. It comes back to your question, actually, when you were introducing me and you were wondering, well, you know, can we really get happy if, you know, we've got a set point? Well, here's the good news for you guys tonight. Did you know that only 10% of our happiness, only 10% of life events that occur in our life, positive or negative, will affect us? Only 10%. 40% of our happiness is due to our deliberate thoughts and actions about the circumstances. It's like where did she go? She was talking about Crohn's, remember? And her attitude, I took a note of it. What Annie did was fantastic because she took an attitude that I loved. She became proactive. She became a vegetarian. She did not impose it on her family. But look at what Annie did. She said, okay, it's life circumstances, that sucks, but I'm going to do something about it. So the stuff in here is what changed her. And I looked at her eyes, she smiled. Only 50% is due to genetics, guys. That is such hot information to share with you guys tonight. It's our deliberate, effortful activities that have a powerful effect on how happy we are over and beyond genetics and life circumstances. And I just want to stop for a moment and get you to digest that thought. You talked about appetizers. This is the main course, guys. This is it. This is a pie, but you get to eat it all and you don't get fat. There's no permanent hangover on this one. But remember, 50% is due to genetics. So I have patients come and say, well, mom was a depressive, dad was a schizophrenic. What do you expect of me, Dr. Nihal? And I say, excuse me, that's only 50%. What are you doing about it? Oh, you're going to tell me what to do. I said, I don't think so, but let's figure this out together. Notice what I'm saying, that we tend to use the past as an excuse as to why we can't move forward. And that is inexcusable in my books because we can change. I am proof of it. I can tell you about, I've seen 14,000 patients over 35 years. 400,000 hours later, I have developed something, and I'm going to tell you it works. It really does. So what are the misconceptions about happiness? And don't tell me you haven't fallen into that trap, because I have in my 20s. Oh yeah, I'll get the designer stuff, won't I? Because by osmosis, that'll make me look good. I'll run and get a perfect body because then I'll be happy. I'll find true love and be swept off my feet. And I'll find a good job. And then I'll be clinically happy. My foot, you won't. Because remember what I said about the lottery winner and the paraplegic. After a year, you revert to your set level of happiness. And guys, that is also true for your marriage. After a year, you revert to your set point. At the start, it's all fluff. It's beautiful, whatever. And don't get me wrong, if you happen to be lucky to find the right mate, this is great. You have a companion for life. But if you were using your mate as an excuse for your deficiencies and that you can be happy by that person, you're doomed for failure. It's not going to work. So take a look at this, guys. Are the two lines the same? And I won't embarrass you. Are the two tables the same? Now, this is the Mueller-Lyre-Shepherd illusions. Actually, they are the same. But I'm just sharing this with you tonight because I thought it was important. If I said to you guys, our brains, our eyes give us optical illusions, you'll say, yeah, you're full of it, Nihal, what next? But this is a fact. Okay, this is a fact. They're the same length. I have asked people in Shanghai about this, and they've argued with me till the cows come home, until one of them actually was wonderful. He took out a measuring tape and he says, hey, you're right. I said, well, I don't want to be right. I just wanted to prove to you something with your optical illusions. Okay, so that's all right. Yet another problem we have, and this is a very important one, it's called miswanting. This is another rabbit hole or a culprit, something that stops us from being happy. It's the act of being mistaken about what and how much you will like something in the future. Do you know this? Oh, maybe I should have that ice cream right now, or maybe I should have that pizza right now because that'll make me happy. Really? Our minds miswant. They are guilty for telling us we want something because they think in terms of relatives, not absolutes. So, I had that ice cream the other day. I'm going to have another one now. That's going to help. Here we go. Don't you know of people who do this? If you live in North America like you guys do, you know what I'm talking about. When I go to Scottsdale, it's amazing. The Lamborghinis, the Ferraris, the Bentleys, they're all over the place, okay? The little car here, the little Jeep is not around because everyone wants to get bigger and better. And that actually is miswanting because you get it. And then after a while, I taught you, remember what I said, you go back to your original, your set point of happiness. Unfortunately, maybe your bank manager is happy, but that's probably the only person. So our minds are very annoying because our intuitions are often totally wrong. You know that? We think in reference points, not absolutes. So I am living next to a lottery winner. He's got a car. I'm going to buy a Jaguar like his. And it's interesting how we use our minds to say this to ourselves. I had a patient who said to me, I'm going to get that Louis Vuitton handbag. And I said, yeah, why are you telling me you can do that? She says, because my husband is going to get upset about this. And I said, well, again, that's not what we're talking about today. I was working with her on social anxiety, by the way. And she said, but I really want it. And I said to her, why do you really want it? Help me to understand. Because, of course, I didn't have a Louis Vuitton handbag in my office. I had one of these tattered things I'd been running around the plant with for years. And she said, because it's so lovely. and it's only 4,000 US.
Ooh,
I said to her, how many therapy sessions can you get for the $4,000? And now I understand why you don't want to tell your husband. And I told her, as a marriage counselor, I always say, and as a married woman, if it's not necessary, kind, and true, don't say anything. But if it meets those three criteria I teach my couples, if it's not necessary, kind, and true, don't say. But I thought it was necessary to say it because it's 4,000 US dollars. That's not even with the tax. It wasn't kind to leave him out of the equation, and it was true. So 3 out of 3 spilled the beans, right? But it was interesting how she got so caught up with this annoying feature, stuff. And it's not just women, but in my practice, I found men as well will do this. The church's shoes, the Burberry, the watch, this, that, and the other, and then I'll be happy. And unfortunately, these things have a tendency of sticking around like an unwelcome guest that's outstayed its welcome. And then you got to buy something else because you get bored with it, don't you? Here's another fallacy. A colleague of mine is a plastic surgeon. And he and I were talking about, what I was talking to him about was body dysmorphic disorder. And that in layman's terms is when you have a distorted view of your body, okay? So what I found in my practice is that men and women are going for plastic surgery. Men to have stronger chests, so they are sexually more attractive, and women a different rhinoplasty or some other device, some other intervention is used to make them look better. The problem, though, is that once you do that to one part of your body, it's like opening Pandora's box. You start being critical about other parts and other parts and other parts, So I say, be very careful about that, because that's another criminal. That's another way you can decrease your level of happiness. Okay? So it doesn't increase subjective well-being, because then you say you got the rhinoplasty was done, you got Kate Middleton's nose, now I need something else. The other thing I was talking about last time that you guys talked to me was social comparison, because when we look at social media, sometimes it's an air-buffed picture of someone and we compare that person to how we look, and invariably we feel bad about ourselves. It's not a case of looking at social comparison and saying, I look better than she. It's a case of looking at social comparison and say, oh my word. And the other little thing that you probably have heard of is FOMO, or the fear of missing out. And I teach people to go with JOMO, the joy of missing out.
Right.
Wonderful. Let's just get out of it, And social comparison and social media, I say we need to limit the amount we use. Because especially if it's news, make sure that you're getting, and I talked about misinformation, get your news from a reliable source. And I tell people after 6 p.m., turn it all off, including all of your apps, everything. Why? If it's news, it'll bleed. It'll be there tomorrow, waiting to greet us like an unwelcome guest. So why disturb your sleep with that? Just leave it alone. And you can compartmentalize and limit the amount of time, screen time, as I call it. It's so much healthier for you. Unfortunately, with COVID-19, a lot of people were confined to home to work, and the screen became so important in my field too, because I was treating via this, okay? So our mind doesn't have a good filter for reference points. So you think you're going to enjoy the ice cream, more of it, I'm going to enjoy it a little bit more. We don't predict how long happiness will last. And marriage, as I was telling you, was a perceptual adaptation. So let's go back to poor predictors of the duration the happiness will last. So I did a study with university profs. And these were associate professors who were about to get tenure. So they had applied for tenure. So I interviewed 5 of them. And I asked them, how would you feel if you did not get tenure? And it was just across the board, they all said the same thing in different words. I'll lose credibility, I'll lose face. It'll be a disaster. People will think I'm a failure. I don't think I could live through that.
Wow.
A year later, I went back to the same 5 profs. Only one of them had become a full tenure track prof. The rest, the 4 were still associates. And I looked at the associates individually, of course. I said, hey guys, how's it going? You know, how do you feel? Oh, that's fine. Life goes on. I'm just happy. I'm good now. All good. See, our minds. So think when you counsel people, guys, if they're saying to you, oh, you know, the sky will just, what if this happens? I usually say to people, answer the what if, please. Once you answer what if, Chicken Little didn't fly, come out of the sky. You got some backup plans. Let's look at contingencies. But that happened with those university profs. And I thought it was fascinating. It's just a story to share with you guys. So these guys I really like, especially Dan Gilbert, Tim Wilson. These guys say most of the things we think will make us happy don't make us as happy as we think. And I'd like to stop talking for a moment and get you guys to just go within and think about what that statement means. And how does it relate to you? And I won't get into your personal lives, but I will ask you honestly to take a look within. Most of the things we think will make us happy don't make us as happy as we think they will. So one of the things that I've found with people is that, and I'm guilty of it, by the way, it's called time affluence. I like to spend money so I have extra time to do the things I want to do. For example, to visit with friends, to go to an art gallery, to attend a museum, a concert, or whatever. And sometimes to do that, I need to pay money to someone to clean my house, pay money to someone to do something else. And that's a trend I've seen with a lot of people who are working now for 4 days instead of 5, who are choosing to value time, spending time in social connections, investing with their friends, versus running after the dollar. And I much rather have less money and more time, because time is a special commodity. We use the word time. If you listen to how we use the word time, I'm always interested in language, you know. How is time spent? Did you spend your time well? That was a waste of time. Notice what we're doing with time. We're equating it we're monetizing time. That's part of that is a metaphor of our society and the values. And there's not a problem with that, to each his own. But I rather spend time with others than to spend a lot of time making money. So I will deliberately, for instance, say no to someone if they want to come in for counseling or psychotherapy or an assessment. I will say no because there's a quota I will take and no more. Because that gives me time to do other things in my life that are non-monetary, like read a book. In psychology, for instance, I do a lot of reading in my field, research in the field, contributing, giving back, teaching people things like teaching you guys tonight. That's important. So it's just a thought, right? I like this one. My media girl did a good job of this for me. I made her draw me something that was horrible. And there she did it. This is world during lockdown and COVID-19 and how did it affect us? Well, you know, the thing with COVID-19 that was a game changer for a lot of people is that if you were depressed premorbidly or before COVID, if you suffered from anxiety before, if you had any psychological problem before COVID, it was exacerbated with the onset of COVID-19 because anxiety increased. We didn't know what to listen to. Our medical experts kept giving us conflicting reports. There was a vaccine, then there wasn't a vaccine. We were told to stay away from people. First, it was called physical distance. Then they called it social distance. All of these were euphemisms for the fact that that COVID-19 hit us in our sweet spot because all of a sudden I couldn't hug people. I'm used to shaking my hand at the front door when the mailman comes and I say, thank you. I had to pull my hand away. I'm going for a walk. People are keeping away from me. They think I'm a walking pathogen. And, you know, because I have a good sense of who I am, it didn't bug me that much. It gave me a wide berth and I'm going, what? This is good, you know? But all I'm saying is COVID-19 hit us in our sweet spot. It hit me badly too, because I couldn't socialize with my friends. I love my book club. We sit down, occasionally we read the book, we eat a lot of chocolate and drink some wine. We have a good time. You know, that went. Everything went. down the tube. We couldn't go out to eat. We couldn't do any of these things. And then there was homeschooling. And that was hard on parents. It was also very tough on my couples. I had a woman say to me, you know what? That's my kitchen. I wanted him to go to work, bye, have a good day. But now he's in my kitchen. He's invading my home. And I don't like this. So, these sorts of things were happening as well. And people lost romance. Oh, I could just talk on and on about what I did during COVID for my patients, but I won't. What I will say to you, however, with the lockdown, it hit us in our sweet spot. And Pauline Boss created a very nice term for this. It's called, I don't know if you've heard it before. Most people don't, so I thought I would share it with you. Ambiguous loss. Have you heard of that term?
No.
Let me explain what ambiguous loss is. Ambiguous loss means the person is still around, but you choose not to have contact with that person. Didn't that happen to us during COVID-19?
Yes.
Very good. But what about a breakup in a relationship? If you're counseling a couple who are having a breakup, ambiguous loss. They're choosing not to be having any contact with that person. What about your mother or father if they're suffering from dementia? And they're physically there, but psychologically you've lost your parent already. That's ambiguous loss. What about someone who is lost in war and hasn't come back home yet? That's ambiguous loss too, because there's no closure. We don't know if this person is going to come back. That's such an important concept to share with you today, ambiguous loss, because we all had it in some form during COVID-19. All of the things that we were used to doing were taken away from us. I don't know about you guys, but I exercise so I can eat, and I like to eat. It's one of the few pleasures in life that they tell me isn't sinful. So I will do it, And then the restaurants had the unmitigated gall to close their doors. So I'm condemned to the kitchen, and I'm going, really? This isn't quite fair, but that's all right. So there's another term that I don't think you know. Dale, you want to admit someone? Robert Robinson. There you go.
Yes, it just came in.
Good, thank you. Languishing is something that Corey Keyes developed. This is something that happened to people after COVID-19. When we return to normalcy, what has happened to us is we're like this woman. We want to engage and we want to disengage at the same time. We're exhausted. We're fatigued. It's hard to get motivated. This is not to be confounded with depression, by the way. This is languishing. And then we had the cave syndrome. Dr. Bregman, who is a psychiatrist in Florida, developed this term, the cave syndrome, to explain what people are going through following COVID-19, coming back to normalcy, if you will. So here is what it is: an unwillingness to engage in activities that involve socializing, reluctance to return to the workforce, and fear of indoor dining. Okay, that's the cave syndrome. And that's a clinical fact, you guys. But here's the good news. I gave you a lot of doom and gloom, didn't I? But there's some good news to share with you. Did you know when I was sick as a child, my granny would give me chicken noodle soup. So I would dream of getting sick so I could get her chicken noodle soup. Well, years later, scientists have found out there was merit in bone broth. Granny was right after all. So why am I going into that? Because I'm linking it to when we get a cold. We don't race off to the doctor. We expect our physical immune system to take care of us because we nurture it with proper diet, rest, nutrition. Don't we do those things? Exercise. But Dan Gilbert, and I told you I like Dan Gilbert, he's at Harvard University. He developed something called the psychological immune system. And this is so exciting for you guys to teach you why you can be happy when I teach you my intervention, because our psychological immune system works in a similar way to our physical immune system. And here I did a diagram to show you. Of course, you don't have to believe my diagram. I was just having fun with it. But it means it's a system of adaptive resources and positive personality characteristics that acts as a psychological antibody at times of stress. And we have it. If only we could tap into it. This is the good news. So when you think, oh, tornado, someone lost their home, this, that, and the other, everything is doom and gloom. Remember that we are resilient. How did our forefathers do it in the 1940s? And if we look at our statistics on happiness today, we're at the same level of happiness as our forefathers in 1940 when they didn't have running water and had outhouses, even though we have all of these wonderful gadgets today. So think about that. So to use my system, which is my happiness control panel, you have to embrace a growth mindset. And this has been proven in the literature. Everything I'm giving you today is not based on anything but clinical fact, okay? But I'm trying to make it interesting because sometimes clinical fact can be as dry as sawdust. So if you have a growth mindset, Carol Dweck at Stanford University found that this is what you're going to do. You're going to focus on learning, not outcomes. Good performance, you assume, takes hard work. Hard work is good for you. Effort is good. Make most of your weaknesses and share your mistakes with others. Use it as feedback as to what you want to do differently. With a fixed mindset, however, you focus on the outcome, on the grades. And good performance, you assume, is going to come naturally. And if you have to work that I'm not smart, effort is a bad sign. You hide your weaknesses and hide mistakes. Now, look, she did some studies with inner city children in New York, and she got them to move into the growth mindset. After a year, these children aced their mathematics exams, the standardized tests. Whereas parents who had a fixed mindset said, when you're dumb, you're stupid, this, all of those kinds of things were not good for them. But then she went a step further. She went to pre-med students at university. And here's what she found. With a fixed mindset, the students were worried about their grades, and they did poorly and they lost confidence. With a growth mindset, these kids were so excited to be at university, they couldn't believe they got in because they knew their marks were borderline. They go, oh, wow, I got into Stanford, look at me. And not only that, but they were so excited to work. For them, the process of learning was like chocolate bars. This is so exciting and it's so hard and I'm failing, but I'm going to get there. That was them. They had a lot of energy. Fixed mindset, they were ashamed. They felt shame. Their self-esteem took a beating because they took it personally, That is a reflection of me, which is a really bad thing. Yeah. Yeah, look at what happened. Growth mindset outstripped them in the final grade, huh? And why am I talking about the growth mindset because I told you I was going to give you a scaffold to build on happiness. And you need to have that growth mindset. Think of anything that you want to learn, a new skill. Go with a growth mindset. If it's hard, that's information. When I teach you my happiness control panel, if you tell me it's hard, I say, go with a growth mindset. It makes a huge difference. So this is another piece of good news for you. Did you know this? I know, Dale, the Bible gives you lots of good news, but I have good news too, okay? Yeah. Mine is just within my little field, okay? So I'm not being iconoclastic, but I can assure you that we have something called post-traumatic growth.
Yes.
Everyone wants to say, I got post-traumatic stress disorder. It's like, I caught something like a cold. Really? Tell me more. Because Tedeschi and Calhoun were researching post-traumatic stress disorder, found that the people who embraced stressors and had abysmal times in their lives, faced cruelty, unspeakable, heinous crimes, but they embraced it and took it as an opportunity for growth, did flourish. They bloomed from this. They had a change in their spirituality. They had a change in their career. They changed values. Some of them did some spring cleaning and decided some of their friends were not really friends and embraced others. Okay, that's post-traumatic growth. And above all, they have a change in life, in the way they look at life. So they don't fall by the wayside, huh? And now, finally, to the happiness control panel, which is something I've developed, okay? But before we go to that, just think of your happiness and your subjective well-being in 2019 and where it was then as compared to where it could be moving forward. Take a minute and think about that. How it could be different. So I developed the happiness control panel while working with over 15,000 patients over 35 years. When we use our happiness control panel, we learn to have more control over our emotional well-being. We learn to emotionally self-regulate, by the way. We don't fly off the handle. It facilitates the delivery of dopamine, the feel-good hormones that make us feel happy. Let me just show you there it is. Not cute? Exercise. All of these are buttons, and you can push whichever button you wish. And I'll talk to you about the buttons in a minute, okay? But let me just continue with this. These are the feel-good hormones, the dopamine, for example, that will make us feel happy. And it will happen when you use your happiness control panel because the hypothalamus is at work too, helping the release of dopamine. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we can develop these healthy addictions that deliver something close to the effects of oxytocin, or what's known as the love hormone, and leaves us energized? It resides in the prefrontal cortex. We all have it. It's in that area of the brain where executive higher level decisions are made. It's right there. I invite you to use the happiness control panel and start noticing with your 5 senses: smell, sound, touch, taste, sight. Look at how your emotions and your physical sensations change when you select one of those buttons. The principle that I'm using of noticing is new. Think of the happiness control panel as a motherboard on your computer. You can take a photo of it. It's copyright, by the way. But you can take a photo of it and think of it on your computer. It only takes 15 minutes a day to nail it. Remember, we did talk about hammers, huh? To access your happiness on demand, you will realize that happiness is something we can all manufacture. It's not something we buy. We can manufacture it. Happiness, I say, is a habit. So let's look at the happiness control panel, please. And you put this on your motherboard, on your screen. You create icons of it. And there are just a couple of them that I'm going to share with you tonight. There's several, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to deal with a couple that I think would have value to each and every one of you. Take a look at exercise. When I was at university, I discovered that running was something that gave me a jolt of confidence. My focus became sharper. So when I worked with my patients who were suffering from depression, I would ask some of them to exercise for just 15 to 20 minutes a day. And after that, I'd ask them to write down their depressive thoughts. What they discovered is that they could not do depression immediately following a cardiovascular workout. I deliberately use the word do depression instead of be depressed to create an action state versus a passive state of apathy, suffering, and being stuck. You know, I had a patient come and shake my hand and say, I am depressed. And I said, I am Joni Hall. And he laughed. I said, yeah, because you're more than your depression, you know. Mm. I have a lot of compassion. I've been there. We've all had our down moments. But notice what I'm saying. Can you do depression? When you are in the vice grip of that depression, it sucks you. It feels, guys, like a cast from your ankle up to your neck. You can't move. Mm. And believe me, when I asked my patients, can you please give me 15 minutes? I knew how hard that would be. It was hard enough for them to get ready, get dressed, and come to my clinic. Think how courageous that was on their part, and how much harder it was when I said to them, I want you to go outside and do a power walk, do something for 15 minutes, because when you're clinically depressed, you have zero energy. It sucks it out of you. You have nothing left. Mm. And I hate it when people say to my patients, well, get over it. It does not work like that. You've got to do something about it. But I strongly believe that you've got to learn it experientially. That's why I asked them, can you do 15 minutes? And then I'm allowing you to do half an hour of depression. But that's the only time in the day or night when you're allowed to do depression. And if you do it at any other point, you owe me another 15 minutes of exercise. And you know, the average person doesn't like to exercise under the best of circumstances. So what happened with the first patient? He came back in and he looked at me strangely, and I looked at him and he said, you know what? I said, what? He said, I like passing tests. I like when I'm told to do something that I do it with excellence, and I failed. I said, there's no failure. We can embrace mistakes. I failed too, but I don't call it a failure. I call it feedback. What happened? And he said, well, I did the 15 minutes, but I couldn't get depressed. I couldn't write down depressive thoughts, and so I failed. Oh, I tell you, if I were allowed to hug patients, I'd hug him. I would have just got up and just hugged him in my arms. That was so brilliant. I said, but so I kept a straight face, of course, a poker face. And I said, so you failed. Shame on you. What exactly did you fail at? I wanted him to give me the words. What did you fail at? Oh, he said, and he thought and thought. He says, I didn't write the depressive notes. And I said, and why didn't you? He said, because I didn't do depression. It's like it was a game changer for him. A light went off. And he said to me, wow, I never thought I had control over my emotions. And I said to him, we all have control, but we don't know how to press the button that gives us that control, how to access it. And I said to him, apart from feeling like a failure, how did you feel, honest, when you exercised and after? He said, at the start, I hated you. I didn't want to do it. Afterwards, I felt really good. And then I couldn't do the other thing. So then I felt bad again. And I thought, she's a waste of time anyway. And I said, yeah, I am a waste of time. That's okay too. But notice what he did. That was just brilliant. I'm just sharing this with you because I thought it was a very moving thing that happened. So guys, think about right now how you would use this exercise button on your happiness control panel. If you want to press it, it means that tomorrow you'll just spend 15 minutes doing it. Think of the happiness control panel as different options that you have on your motherboard. So at night, when you go to bed, think of the one you're going to pick for tomorrow. And if you started it today, like my patients do, I say to them, ask yourself what went well for you today and why. So I'm teaching people agency, that you have more control of your life than you think. Mm-hmm. In spite of the external things, there's chaos always in life. But can you glean from that a nugget that you can take to preserve your autonomy, your integrity, and to share with others? So that's a habit we're developing, and I tell people do it for 30 days, because in 30 days, I'm assured automaticity will happen. It'll go into working memory, and then it's like putting on your shoes, tying your laces, or putting on a shirt. You don't think, which arm do I put in first, or which button do I tie? Unless you're crazy, I don't think you would. So the point is that automaticity takes place, and that's the beauty of this intervention. So what you're doing actually is doing it with your 5 senses. And I say, taste, sound, touch, sight, smell. It's amazing when I tell people to do that, what they notice out there in the real world, in nature. The things that you don't see because you're so focused on a monologue within or saying things that are contra-therapeutic. Now, can you just focus on going on a treasure hunt? What did you taste? What did you see? What did you smell? Slow down. And then I say, what you're doing is you're stretching your mental and physical bandwidth. That's what you're doing. You're looking at possibilities now. So instead of you being like this, you're looking here, okay? The research shows that your peripheral vision will increase. You'll start looking younger, and you'll have an increased ability to problem solve. How good is that? The other one I like to share with you tonight, with your permission, may I?
Yeah, yes, please go ahead. We're running close to the time, but go ahead, please.
Social interaction. Social interaction is very important because if you are feeling social anxiety or you're feeling down, you want to stay away from people. And that's the worst thing to do because happy people invest in satisfying social relations. And satisfying social relations is your ammunition against stress. Because when you share with other people, you feel better, you feel uplifted. And the other issue is that we are facing globally an epidemic of loneliness. In China, we're having it with more elderly people and fewer young people. We're seeing it. Theresa May in the UK developed the Ministry of Loneliness, by the way. Australia and New Zealand are doing it, as well as Canada, creating venues for people to connect with each other, be it a book club, be it a walking group, be it you guys with your meetup, whatever. Let's try and meet with others. But we have to be also compassionate, because not everyone is going to want that. Not everyone is going to feel comfortable going out in a group. So start one-to-one. And if you're going in a group, I tell people, join the group, but tell the group, I just want to look, I want to observe, I don't want to participate today. And they'll be fine with that. I have a funny story. Michael, how much time do I have?
I'll tell you what, if you can, we probably we'll have to move our Q&A to our mixer time. Danny, would that be okay?
Okay.
I don't know, because there's something I want to share about social
It's
interactions.
really important. So go ahead and take another 5 minutes or so. That should be good.
Patient in his 50s whom the psychiatrist sent to me because he was clinically depressed. He had tried suiciding a few times. He seemed to be resistant to antipsychotic medication, etc. And he came to see me, and he was angry. You know, you could tell with his nonverbal behavior, he didn't want to be in my office. And I understood why, because he'd seen 5 or 6 psychologists and got nowhere with them. So I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I said to him, you know, you probably don't want to be here, do you? And he smiled, and he said, no. I said, but I like your smile. And I said, how about if you just leave the session, you don't have to be here today. Oh, that really made him happy. His body just relaxed. I said, what I want you to do is just go out, walk for 5 minutes every day, because this guy was staying in his house, by the way. It was really a bad case. Go out for 5 minutes and smile at passersby. That's all I want you to do. And if you think I'm a waste of time, don't come back. But this session is on the house anyway, because you and I both agree I'm a waste of time. He agreed with that. And he also agreed that, at least I wasn't asking him to give me his history or waste his time. I said, just go and do that for me. Well, the following week he came in, much to my surprise. My assistant says he's booked a time in with you. And I was very surprised. And he said to me, well, here's why I came back. Because I started talking to people and they smiled back at me. Well, what I was trying to teach him was mirror neurons. So when you smile, someone will automatically smile back at you. And they usually want to talk to you. In Canada, people are very gregarious, so they talk. And of course, he realized, hey, his mood was a little better. He needed to give me another chance. So he gave me a few other sessions and we worked with his depression. It was it was a happy story, right? So let's just move on real fast I'm not going to do gratitude. I want to do forgiveness. Forgiveness is something very important. I love this button. I'll tell you why. It's like a multi-layered cake. Because you can apologize to someone, but that doesn't mean they're going to forgive you. But when you look at forgiveness, what are we talking about? I had a patient come to me. She was an OB-GYN in her 30s. She had 2 little girls. And she was so upset at her mother. She did not want her children to have any contact with their maternal grandmother, but the children were asking, what about Granny? Anyway, she explained to me that her mother had been very abusive to her verbally when she was growing up, told her she would amount to nothing, she was good for nothing, and so on and so forth. So I asked her about her mother, and I said, what was your mother's mother like? Oh, she said she was even worse. And then we said, I wonder what it would be like. I'm just curious as to what your mother learned about being a good mother from her mother. And I'm wondering what do you think happened? And I just left those questions up, and she said, well, obviously, she probably, did it. She was repeating the pattern. And furthermore, she was so angry. She said to me, and you know what? I became a doctor just to spite her, to show her that I could be better anyway. Underneath the anger, I could sense a lot of hurt. So I said to her, let's think about your mom. And what do you think was the agenda underlying those words to you? Was she trying to motivate you? Could she have been doing something different? You're a mom yourself, Tell me about that. And we explored many options. And in the end, she wept. And she was able to forgive her mother, but also to forgive herself. The child who needed to be nurtured was left unprotected because the father was neutral. He just didn't pay much attention. So that was a very interesting story about forgiveness. But then I teach my patients, and I'll tell you guys the same thing, learn to forgive yourselves. Amen. This is another aspect of forgiveness that's so important. The tyranny of the shoulds. I should be perfect. I should never be rejected. Whatever I do should be excellent. The tyranny of the shoulds takes us down that rabbit hole of low self-esteem. So we need to practice self-compassion by treating ourselves like our very best friend. We forgive family for doing things to us that we will never forgive our friends for doing to us, and yet we treat ourselves so badly at times. So that's something else to think about, okay? So that's the forgiveness button. And I have many buttons, but I'm not going to go through them because we don't have time. These are even more buttons. But what I want to talk about is when you spend money on other people, you get a bigger bang for your buck because it's called happy money. When you have more time to spend, you feel happy. Invest in things that don't last, such as experiences versus objects. Limit your use of social media time. In my happiness control panel, I've given you a road map. You can pick whichever ones you want to do for 15 minutes every day. Remember that habit is something we can manufacture, and it is happiness. Join me in my vision. Take a minute, take out your device, and write down how your life will have changed in a significant way in a year's time through the use of your happiness control panel when you invest in your vision. I want you to give you a minute to do that. I'll end now with a quote from Proverbs 29. Where there is no vision, the people perish.
Thank you, Joan, very, very much. There's a lot to chew. Do you have a website, or is there some other way that others can find information about your panel?
My panel is coming out. I have not shared it with the world yet. It's brand new. But I'll tell you what I've just done. I've started a podcast entitled Happiness on Demand. And I've done 6 right now, and they've gone live.
I've listened to some. Yep.
Right? You got the loneliness one, and you've got a few others. Did you get those?
Yes.
On YouTube? Okay. And then I've got LinkedIn has got my social media. On that, I've got videos that come out as well. And there's Happy is the New Healthy has got other links as well. So you've got those links. The Happiness Control panel is something that I have not shared with the world yet. I will be sharing it shortly, though.
All right.
But it is something I'm sharing with your group because I wanted to, because your spirituality touched my soul.
Oh.
That's the truth. I was raised as a Roman Catholic. I went to a boarding school, and I don't preach religion on anyone, least alone my clients. But I just wanted to share it with a group of Christians. I felt that I needed to do that. So I did it as a gift to you guys.
It is our privilege. Thank you so much. We typically end at 8:30, so we need to do our closing as well as a Q&A, which we are going to mix in with our final mixer. And so before prayer, do we have that closing video? Barry, is it queued up? How others can stay connected with us?
I'm going to stop share, okay?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
We're thrilled that you're attending this edition of your Natural Health Meetup. In between our monthly sessions, you can stay connected with us in as many as 3 easy ways. Our Facebook group has our live as well as archive videos along with other natural health updates and a place to post your questions. Our Natural Health Learn and Share Meetup site has announcements, reminders, and messages for you, and also our confidential requests for prayer page. We love to pray for you and any concerns of life that you may have. Use the link on the screen to stay connected for any one of these or all 3.
All right. So after our closing prayer by our very own Al Bacchus, we will continue just for a few more minutes. We finish at 8:30 with questions. And if you do have questions, we'd like you to please share your face with us. You know, we'd like to see the person behind the voice for questions. So, Al?
Yes, let me add my thanks to Dr. Nihal and for the audience here today. Some very lofty thoughts to carry forward into our lives. Let's pray, please. Father in heaven, thank you so much for the blessings of this session of sharing and learning and thinking about the things that would make us fulfilled in this life, fulfill our purpose, our contribution to humanity, and in preparation for the life to come. And we thank you for that hope in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Al. And so this portion of our time together on NHE Natural Health Enthusiasts is a time for us to just sit back, take a deep breath, and just have a chat. And so, you know, there's experiences that Dr. Nihal has had, but there are experiences that you personally have had separate from what she's experienced. And so maybe you want to bring that into the conversation this evening. And so this is the opportunity. Please, I have a ton of questions. I have 3 pages of questions that I could possibly ask, but this is your time. So
There are
those
also,
of you that, I'm
sorry.
sorry?
There's also questions in the chat window as well.
Oh, okay, yes, and there's questions in the chat window as well.
Before you get to your 3 pages, Dr. Danny, one thought struck me through Dr. Nihal's presentation is if you can boost your psychological immune system, is it possible to reset your happiness set point upwards? What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Nihal?
No, your happiness set point is a set point that you have because of DNA. The beauty, however, is that you have a 40% chance of moving forward so that you're no longer depressed, anxious, or whatever you might be because of your psychological immune